friends, family, riders. We gather here today to honor the life of the Topper Track. We look upon their ashes as we give thanks to their life and wish them well now that their time in this world has come to an end. We thank the Topper Track for gracing us with their presence in this world and for some of the amazing roller coasters that it's given us. Topper Track was not long for this world, nor was it expected to be, and was ultimately replaced by its successor and elder. Harsh, I know, but that's the hard truth in roller coasters. Once one comes, another is replaced. The cycle forever continues, much like life itself. We thank you for pioneering the wooden coaster market, and we thank you for the 4 children you left for this world. We thank you for your everlasting impact, and we wish you luck on your journey. Let's look back on the life and legacy of the Topper Track today, and how the iBox caused its ultimate demise. If I do get something wrong, please correct me in the comments. Enjoy your ride. Rocky Mountain Construction, or RMC. How many times have I said this already, dude? Like, come on. Is a coaster manufacturer that makes some of the best rides known to man. From humble beginnings to one of the biggest players in the roller coaster industry ever. It all started with Fred Grubb. Fred Grubb was a lifelong construction worker from the time he was young welding pipe collars. After he graduated high school, he and his brother started a construction company. Not RMC yet, though. The business never took off, prompting Fred to move to Seattle in the mid-80s. From there, he found work doing construction for zoo exhibits. In 1995, though, his career would truly start. Fred would get a job in the amusement industry working for Silverwood Theme Park, constructing rockwork. Gary Norton, the owner of the park, was so impressed he offered Fred a job as the construction director of the entire park. This is where Fred would get his first job working on a coaster. Fred was tasked with leading Silverwood's latest construction project, Timber Terror, Custom Coasters International, or CCI, wooden coaster. He led the entire construction of the ride, and in 1999, led the park once more in the construction of Tremors. CCI, the creators of both coasters, was then so impressed by his work, they offered him a job at managing all of the construction projects for CCI. In a bold move, he refused, opting for the creation of RMC. And thus, Rocky Mountain Construction was born. RMC would begin with Fred and his wife Susan refurbishing old wooden coasters. RMC had a hand in constructing quite a few projects, from doing all the construction on Silverwood's water park and installing wooden coasters like Timberhawk in 2003, and even El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure and T-Express at Everland in South Korea, both regarded as some of the greatest roller coasters of all time. The company went on with this family-owned business model of rebuilding and constructing wooden coasters for some time, until Fred approached multiple designers with a better way. Many parks were tearing down their old wooden coasters instead of keeping them, as maintaining them took a large chunk of cash. Fred ultimately ended up approaching the one and only Alan Schilke, who was one of the only designers who was up for the challenge. Alan Schilke is a roller coaster designer and engineer, who has designed multiple amazing rides like X, Tennessee Tornado, and Edgenica. He's also worked for many companies in the industry, from Aerodynamics to SNS to now RMC. Fred approached Alan with the concept, and he was instantly on board. At the same time, Six Flags was looking to preserve the life of one of their old woodies, Texas Giant, located at Six Flags Over Texas. Six Flags suggested that Alan work with Fred to find a greater solution that didn't result in replacing the wood or tearing the entire structure down. They both worked together tirelessly on designing their new track, the Topper... Wait a minute. No, this can't be right. It says here the iBox track? Well, they both found the solution in ripping up the old wooden track and replacing it with a stronger steel track called the iBox track. This was first used on the Texas Giant to turn it into the new Texas Giant. Creative, I know. This would create the most intense hybrid coaster ever. A hybrid coaster is a cross between steel and wood, evident in the new Texas Giant. The entire coaster is utilizing a massive part of the old Texas Giant supporting structure. RMC added a new track and added on to the existing structure to give it more thrilling elements. This was RMC's first big break, and the first ride that they truly designed. Six Flags took a massive gamble hiring them, but it paid off immensely. The new Texas Giant debuted on April 22, 2011. The ride was a huge success, winning the Golden Ticket Award of that year. This wasn't the last of RMC though. This was only a taste of what was coming in the future. While working on the new Texas Giant, Fred and Alan were still hard at work creating more designs for replacing and maintaining old wood coasters. The solution would be our dearly departed topper track. Topper track is a type of wood track consisting of a steel plate and a stack of 6 laminated pieces of wood, classifying it as a wooden track. Every coaster has a set of 3 wheels on trains. On both the iBox and the topper track, the wheels would only drive on the lips of the track, or in the topper track's case, the steel. This gave the rides a more traditional wood coaster feel, while still maintaining the smoothness of steel. The topper track was initially created for the replacement of wood tracks on other old wood coasters that are in need of a replacement of their track, called a retracking. The testing ground for these topper tracks? Right back where Fred started, a small section of Tremors at Silverwood was retracked with a brand new topper track. The test worked so well, they began to implement it into many other old wood coasters in the Six Flags parks. The topper track was steadily gaining traction, along with the reputation of RMC. This is where topper track truly became a different breed. Outlaw Run. Silver Dollar City in Branson, Missouri is one of the best theme parks in the States, with incredible theming to world-class rides. When Silver Dollar City was looking for a brand new record-breaking ride, RMC turned their scopes to Silver Dollar City. When the Hershey chain approached RMC, they showcased what they could do with the topper track and what they'd already had done with the new Texas Giant. They finally in 2011 gave RMC the job. It would take 2 years from conception to completion, but on March 15, 2013, Outlaw Run would open, designed by the twisted mind of Alan Schilke. RMC as a company progressed leaps and bounds while the creation of Outlaw Run was in progress. Outlaw Run was RMC's first roller coaster to use the topper track. The track was a massive success and was built without a single hitch, and delivers a ride experience to rival its sibling. Outlaw Run was also the first RMC coaster to be completely made from the ground up. All of the wood structure was created by RMC, something they hadn't ever done before. Another thing that they hadn't done up to this point was feature trains that were created by RMC themselves. For Fred, this was a goal that he had for the company for a long while. For the new Texas Giant and a second iBox conversion they were doing on Six Flags Fiesta Texas's Rattler called the Iron Rattler, had trains designed by the German roller coaster manufacturer Gerstlauer. Gerstlauer created all of the trains that both those rides use to this day. With the creation of Outlaw Run, they finally debuted the RMC trains. These were designed by RMC, manufactured by RMC, and are used on every single RMC besides the new Texas Giant and Iron Rattler. These trains consist of a box-like design with a lap bar and ankle restraints. Those accomplishments would be very small in comparison, as the huge selling point of this ride was the 3 inversions it featured. The topper track structure allows for RMC to implement inversions on the ride. This ride held the world's first that Silver Dollar City was looking for, the first successful inversion on any wooden roller coaster. I say successful as Son of Beast, a now-defunct wooden coaster at Kings Island, did have a steel loop within it that had to be removed due to how intense and shoddy its construction was. That ride has since been demolished as it had many issues leading to hospitalizations and injuries. I digress. Outlaw Run was a leading example, and the only example of an inversion on a Woody at the time of its opening. It featured an overbank turn at 135 degrees, technically an inversion, and its spectacular finale, a double heartline roll into the end of the ride. Outlaw Run opened to some of the best reviews a roller coaster could get. Some people were calling it a great ride, others calling it the best wooden coaster of all time. What I call it is RMC just getting started. Now, in between Outlaw Run and the next topper track, RMC partnered with a foreign manufacturer, Vekoma, to bring these rides out of the country. This will be very important later. Now, RMC was gaining a name for themselves, and very, very quickly. They continued to get major jobs from major clients, and more often than not, that client was Six Flags. The appeal of these major thrill rides and the relatively low price tag that came with them is still the Six Flags bread and butter to this day. From a ground-up ride to retooling a very old and unpopular one, they could do it all. The year that they would do it all? 2014. The year Six Flags would add 2 more RMCs to their parks. RMC, coming hot off the heels of Outlaw Run, had a reputation for great rides, but the 2 that they were about to add were going to wreak havoc on the coaster world. In a good way. Goliath at Six Flags Great America is RMC's second topper track wooden coaster, and again, outdid everybody's expectations. This ride is the pride of Great America, and is arguably the best coaster in the state. When Six Flags was looking for a new ride to add to Six Flags Great America, they weren't working with much room. This park is filled to the brim with coasters, and truly doesn't have much room to spare. Goliath sits on the plot of one of their former rides, Iron Wolf, and uses the compactness of the space to its advantage. Goliath opened with the steepest drop on any wooden roller coaster, and still holds that record to this day. This ride was also the first to feature a fan-favorite element, the Zero-G stall. The RMC Zero-G stall was an element used on a lot of their top-tier rides, and offers vast amounts of hang time. The Zero-G stall was one of 2 inversions on the ride, only one less than Outlaw Run, which makes it the second place holder for inversions on a wooden roller coaster. On Goliath, RMC had also implemented a brand new lift hill structure, one that would save large amounts of resources, and it just looks so dang cool. Like, where else in the world are you going to find this architecture being served as a useful purpose? Goliath opened on June 19th, 2014, again to rave reviews, but was it better than Outlaw Run? Most people said no. One of the main complaints about the ride is that Goliath was a fairly short roller coaster, unlike Outlaw Run. But just because it was less loved doesn't mean that it was bad by any means. This ride hauls through its layout, with some of the strongest airtime on any coaster around, and absolutely wreaked havoc on the coaster world. But what was the second coaster I mentioned up there? But the 2 that they were about to add were going to wreak havoc on the coaster world. Well, it wasn't another topper track coaster. Goliath and Outlaw Run were 2 of the 5 coasters built by RMC at the time, as the others were all iBox coasters. The all-steel track that we talked about earlier featured on the New Texas Giant and Iron Rattler, and now, Medusa Steel Coaster. Medusa Steel Coaster opened the same year as Goliath at Six Flags Over Mexico, as an iBox steel hybrid conversion of Medusa. This would be the smallest RMC so far, as it was only 95 feet tall, but again, size doesn't really matter, it's how you use your layout, still making Medusa a great ride. So far in RMC's history, each topper track coaster had a coinciding iBox track coaster. This would change swiftly though, as RMC retracked Colossus at Six Flags Magic Mountain to Twisted Colossus. Then again, in that same year, changed Six Flags New England's Cyclone into Twisted Cyclone. These rides would all skyrocket into success, and all be voted some of the best coasters of all time. To think, A company that started making rides in 2011 already had some of the most amazing rides known to man in 4 years. The 5th year, though, would be the biggest year yet. 2016 was the year of RMC. In 2016, they would open 4 new rides that would change the coaster industry forever. This would complete the 4 children of Topper Track, with the addition of 2 new rides that would set major milestones for RMC. The first one being Wildfire. Wildfire is a wooden coaster built at the Kolmarden Wildlife Park. Kolmarden is a Swedish amusement park that hosts a few small rides, aside from Wildfire. Remember when I said that partnership with Vekoma was going to be important? Yeah, it's important now. RMC and Vekoma both installed this ride in Kolmarden, making it the tallest, fastest, and longest wooden roller coaster in Europe as a whole. It goes without saying that this is opened with rave reviews like all of the others, some calling it the best Topper Track coaster yet. Well, maybe it was, for a few months. Lightning Rod, the 4th and final Topper Track coaster ever. Lightning Rod at Dollywood in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee is widely regarded as one of the best roller coasters ever made. It will most likely be the last ever wooden roller coaster produced by RMC. RMC would be enlisted by the Herschend Group once again, as Herschend owns Silver Dollar City along with Dollywood. This coaster, however, would be miles different from Outlaw Run, and frankly, every single coaster that came before it. Lightning Rod would feature the first and only launch on a wooden roller coaster to date. This would also provide it with the fastest wooden roller coaster as well, maxing out at 73 miles an hour. Dollywood is located at the heart of the Smoky Mountains, and Lightning Rod uses that to its advantage. Lightning Rod scales up and down the Smoky Mountain hills, with a 206-foot launch hill. The launch uses a linear synchronous motor, or LSM, propulsion method, scaling the hill extremely quickly. The ride then drops down a 164-foot drop at 73 miles an hour, as it tears through the remaining track, traversing the huge hills and unique elements. Lightning Rod has possibly the most special element on any RMC roller coaster, that being the quad down. This ride is amazing, but with the quad down, it's unlike anything else. It's 4 quick jolts of ejector airtime, and they make a world of difference to this ride. The cherry on top of a fudge sundae. This ride opened on June 13th, 2016, about 3 months late due to technical issues, finally giving Dollywood that standout, attention-grabbing ride you need to get on if you go to Dollywood. Enthusiasts and general public alike raved about Lightning Rod, even going as far to say this was the best roller coaster of all time. From people who have ridden 1,000 coasters to 10 coasters, this was a universally loved ride. There are still enthusiasts who think it's the best 5 years after its opening. This ride was the eye-popping climax to the story of the Topper Track. The thing about a climax is, it's only downhill from there. There would be no new Topper Track coasters announced, leaving a dead silence from RMC about the topic. They would pump out steel eye-box after steel eye-box coaster without question from the public about the Topper Track, leaving it to be forgotten about, and being preoccupied by rides like Steel Vengeance and Zadra. Nobody really cared. But for the few of us who did, we wouldn't have any answers. Until about a few weeks ago. ARM did their website. This came with the announcement of the family coaster, and a nonchalant message within. The Topper Track. The wooden coaster. Gone. The wood coaster column has been replaced by a wooden refurbishment column, where once was a whole section devoted to the Topper Track coasters. If you look at these pictures, Topper Track is nowhere to be found, seemingly replaced by a brand new, more steel track. This is a picture of Tremors at Silverwood, right back where it started. You see how there isn't any topper track? This was the coaster that got retracked with the topper track at the beginning of its life, and now, its footprint is being replaced. This is the new RMC wooden refurbishment track, the 208 retrack. This is the 5th different track developed by RMC. This looks to be RMC's new solution to retracking, as these pieces of track almost look identical to the iBox steel with the addition of an extra few fins and metal bolts. This leaves me with just one question. Why? This looks nothing like the topper track that we know. Why abandon something that's been working so well so far? Well, in 2020, Lightning Rod went down for a refurbishment, leaving this sign outside of the entrance. Lightning Rod is closed for the balance of the 2020 season, as it receives an upgrade from the manufacturer Rocky Mountain Construction. In 2021, lightning strikes twice. This sent the coaster world into a frenzy, not knowing what the upgrade would be, and what was happening to the ride. Adding a dueling track, making it a lift hill, adding a second launch, adding inversions. Well, as a resident of the year 2021, I can firmly tell you that it was none of those things. What happened was good for the ride, but terrible for the likelihood of the topper track. In the extended refurbishment, RMC converted a large portion of Lightning Rod from topper track into iBox track. This was in an effort to make the entire ride more reliable, and specifically the launch. They replaced all of the launch with iBox in areas with high stress. This proved to us that RMC was willing to replace large sections of the ride and do away with the more wooden and redundant track. RMC hasn't told us if there's a deeper issue behind the construction of the track itself, but my guess is that RMC found a greater issue with the topper track and is opting to pull out while they're ahead, and even phasing out the topper track entirely from its role as a track to refurbish with. That combined with one other reason though. That's right. It's been here the entire time. The iBox track. The iBox track has always been the better of the two. It's finally caught up to the topper track. iBox track was everything that the topper track wasn't. It felt the same as topper track, smoother even. The iBox lasts longer as steel is way more durable and sustainable than wood. And this new 208 retrack even has a beat at refurbishing old woodies. In multiple interviews, RMC went so far to say that the iBox track is what they preferred. That's like shunning one of your own children. RMC will always try to persuade a buyer into buying the iBox track over topper, and with this announcement, persuasion looks like a tactic no longer needed.
So I wanted to mention, so in an article, Fred Grope was quoted with a statement saying something about how the company was kind of shifting their focus to more hybrid coasters as opposed to more wood coasters. Would you say that is kind of the case?
Well, you know, we were kind of in an arms race for the world's tallest and fastest wood coaster before, and that's what our track was built for, easy to do, and so it gave the customers something great. Cedar Fair just came out and said, we don't care, we want the world's tallest and fastest hybrid. Now that seems to be a thing and a category, other customers are going along, they're like, I'll take that too. So we like the iBox track best, and that's what we prefer to put on. So as long as the customer's willing for that and they're good to go with the world's tallest hybrid, we'll give it to them.
Right.
That was 2018, before Lightning Rod was retracked, which goes to show how long ago they were ready to drop it. And now, with a replacement on all fronts, it seems as though the topper track is completely obsolete. So instead of being disappointed it's gone, let's celebrate the life of the topper track. Go and ride one of these rides if you can, to pay your respects. We ride these rides not in grief, but in thankfulness that they were constructed, that they will be with us onwards on our roller coaster journey through life. Whether that be for a short time, or for all throughout our lives, I think I can speak for all of us when I say we can all appreciate and honor the life and legacy of the topper track. And thank you all so much for watching.